Kuzangpula and welcome to Bhutan This Week, our weekly news magazine program. First headlines. His Majesty the King arrives in Thimphu after a tour of the high-risk areas. The National Assembly decides to lift the ban on the sale, buying and distribution of tobacco and tobacco products. And Delta variant of COVID-19, the most common variant in the country. And now the details. His Majesty the King arrived in Thimphu on 18th June after concluding a tour of the high-risk areas and entered quarantine as per COVID protocol. His Majesty visited Phuntsholing and Samsi as well as Jomozangkha, Samdrup and Tashigang during the royal tour to inspect COVID-19 measures following community outbreaks and lockdowns in these places.
His Majesty arrived in Phuntsholing from Samdrup on 15th June and visited Samsi yesterday. His Majesty held virtual meetings with the Southern COVID-19 Task Force in Phuntsholing, where lockdown is being eased gradually. While in Samsi, His Majesty met the Samsi COVID-19 Task Force and Desups who are participating in an ICT training as part of the Desung skilling program. During the royal tour, His Majesty tracked the entire border from Merak to Jomozangkha last week. Both Merak and Jomozangkha were in lockdown, but measures are being taken to ease the restrictions as the situation improves. His Majesty met with the Jomozangkha Dunka COVID-19 Task Force on 14th June and then travelled to Samdrup. His Majesty visited the border outpost in Samdrup. His Majesty also visited the Desung National Service water project in the district. 60 Desups are working with the Tomde and RBA personnel to build water supply infrastructure for the town. The project is expected to benefit over 1,500 residents. Sonamongdi for BBS News.
Coinciding with the birthday of Her Majesty the Queen Mother Sring Yangdun Wangchuk, the Bhutan Nuns Foundation opened a training and resource center for nuns at Tsalumafe in Thimphu on 21st June. The day is also celebrated as Nuns Day. A training manual titled Nuns Empowerment Through Capacity and Skills Development was also launched. Some 10 nuns who completed 9 years of Buddhist philosophy studies from Sangchen Dorji Lundrup, a nuns Buddhist college in Punakha, joined the center. The Bhutan Nuns Foundation was founded in 2009 under the patronage of Her Majesty the Queen Mother. The Mines and Minerals Management Bill has been deferred indefinitely. The Joint Committee failed to present a report on the bill to the Parliament as its members could not come to a consensus. As per the agenda, the joint sitting was supposed to deliberate on the bill for 3 days, but it was deferred on the first day without any discussion.
Even after 6 meetings, the Joint Committee comprising of 12 members of Parliament from the two houses could not come to a consensus. The committee recommended deferring the bill.
Tata kepsa womba borche to be zosubigi, teterzegi rikpeboachi dolomite coal so, the rukarajungi wine letter pudagese. Tanizumigi sunde junila, the Jundra bedeburo, Tatini jamchigi meduk, the lingjur beraro, Sajile tembigi proven minerals cara, the jungi wango sejoigale, the tinadumdaji, Shasham Chumasubigi tenda di Tiasi, Shunil.
However, many parliamentarians wanted the joint sitting to deliberate on the bill and decide on its deferment through voting.
Yamdel Sokchungi, Lejumbe Zigimna, Tengachilu, the Kepen, Gakablu Kepen Gadebe Wani Mega, Damba Bedalu, Jungil Wambegi Lezin Tuki Chala, Terzeda Anigi Chala Nambachin, Gakablu Kepen da Kujung Gadebe Wani Mega. The mixed model na Chikzomgi Tokale Bewachin Gadebe Wani Mega, Lejumbe Ewachedigibe, Nalu, the Ninjuti Pinambachin, Namsame Tabdini me Sejuni.
Teta Tachina Nyam to Sochungi Tizingi Shudozume. The Pisu Vigisu, the Junlu, Juans Holing Kangibe, Zida se Tembe im Dojbewachin, Gion Sokdi Catolibere, Shuaratil, Tingilumbo Catolibere, Lonigi Nankulu, the Junlu Nainse, the Tizum Nalapata Bere, Chisonale Chatim Kachizum Terongachi, Jungi de Labin, Gutsudi Seuda, the Jisadi Kara, Jorachibera, Geomessishunil.
Satim Chinmigi, Satin Chusumbigi, Dinsen Gabanalu. Papi Benigi Lojura Mindula. 명아들 림보치기 남비기 까잔날로야 밥 피베 잔이기 로주라 민둘라 속인 쭈디게 베라 다치고 베라
On the other hand, some of the members of parliament of the ruling party supported the committee's recommendation.
Rule of procedure, the legislative rule of procedure, the uphill, the look Gija Bendi Mato, the Ranstangi Samsha, the Tachim Chemule, Geomasegi, the Ludina Lavachin, the Tachim Chemonga Jet, and the Luchajo Dubnigi, the Jamniki Gokap Topchila, the Digimik, the Lejimera Hako, Seshunivi, the Kara Denla, the Tarite Tachu, Dusuchibe, cooling period chi, Namachin. The legimra jong se jumbela.
Thadi tadi ana cheton di labya thuti berude, ngachara sogen chudi berude, tama machuba matu chuni din chugube. Shiu ngomachi legim chibe ngachara ge ha mangwa chudo zum chibe minjuga. Digi nebadi kalu chamni masing ge khab yonu chamni imbe ese.
However, the speaker decided to defer the bill. He said the bill can be tabled as a private member's bill or government's bill after 6 months. Sangi Shizon for BBS News.
The National Assembly decided to lift the ban on the sale, buying and distribution of tobacco and tobacco products in the country. The House endorsed the Tobacco Control Amendment Bill 2021 on Thursday. It was introduced as an urgent bill in light of the continuous smuggling of tobacco products through the country's porous southern border and the associated risks of importing the coronavirus into the country.
After reviewing the Tobacco Control Amendment Bill, the Legislative Committee of the National Assembly recommended repealing Section 11B and C of the bill. As per the section, no person in the country shall sell or distribute and buy tobacco or tobacco products.
Kabadi Pavarajata, Kabadi Tega, the Churing Mabemi Ditangachara Gakabnalu, Tankugi related that Nacharagi that cultivate Bemachop, manufacture Bemachop, Bigi, the Ridi, Mapale Machoni Digi, the Didi Devarabe, Jacques Digibe, the Toncho Bigi did it, Tangachagi, that Chajo Dupchi, Seshunivila.
The House also removed other sections concerning fines and penalties and possession and transportation of tobacco and tobacco products. The limit on the permissible quantity for import of such products has also been repealed. Before the relevant section was repealed, an individual was allowed to import only 800 sticks of cigarettes or 1,200 sticks of biris or 150 pieces of cigars or 750 grams of other tobacco and tobacco products. Other amendments to the bill the National Assembly endorsed include the responsibility of the Economic Affairs Ministry and functions of the Royal Bhutan Police, among others. The Foreign Minister said if the bill is adopted, meaning it is endorsed by the National Council as well, the government will take measures to prevent individuals from using tobacco and tobacco products.
The punitive kache sishunbi, ani beudanga jera soil henkalure nga jegi alu shushina, the mixelgi tangku, the ma publiki tenlu, lerim je kongi alu shizukobe, tenga je tebe tachido sishunbi na, tenga jera chanda chorati, lo chobgi menchidi, ma pudra chonta machobe, te rogaya nga jegi BNC katule, te kongi dijina hisansabara yu sishunbi na.
The National Assembly will officially adopt the bill tomorrow before forwarding it to the National Council. Bima Saldun Sring, BBS News.
For the first time, the Election Commission of Bhutan took electronic voting machines to homes of the voters. The two-day voting through mobile EVM facilitation booths for the upcoming by-election in Mongar constituency ended on Wednesday. The voters who are aged 65 and above and people with disabilities used the facility.
This time, some voters could vote way before the poll day. The mobile EVM facilitation booths were made available to help them choose their candidates from their homes. 8 teams were deployed in the constituency for mobile EVM facilitation booths.
There are so many issues, especially with the rising cases or surging of COVID cases in the country. We thought that people who are elderly, people who are above 65, and the people who are like people with voters with disability who cannot come to polling stations, we thought that why not we give them or facilitate them with mobile voting booth, which means we are going to their doorstep.
and people liked the idea.
Da ya gari da ma ailame me ya dar ma dar an be mango adele na juni digna san karin chi sis shunila chimgo ani be go kaptumni digna san karin chi sis
We are thankful to the Election Commission for bringing the service closer to us. We don't have to walk to cast our votes. We will not be able to cast our votes on the poll day if the polling stations are located far away.
230 voters registered for the facility and more than 160 of them cast their votes yesterday.
Election Commission has very good SOPs how to secure machines, EVM machines. On the first day, they were asked to keep in lock and key in Geok office, 2 lock and keys.
Meanwhile, the facility will be available in the Nganglam constituency after the lockdown. The by-elections in Mongar and Nganglam constituencies will be held on Tuesday. The 2 constituencies were declared vacant after the Home Minister from Mongar stepped down last month and the Nganglam MP passed away in April. For Sonam Singh in Mongar, who came for BBS News.
The Samrup police registered a case of alleged illegal possession of firearms against 3 men from Dewathangewok. They were arrested on 16th June after the district's Divisional Forest Office forwarded an illegal hunting case involving the suspects to the police.
Following a tip-off, forestry officials caught the 3 suspects on 4th April for allegedly killing a barking deer at Gezor in Dewathangewok. The team recovered the animal's skin from them. According to sources, the suspects used a muzzle-loader rifle for the hunting. As per the penal code, illegal possession of firearms is a 4th-degree felony with a prison term of 3 to 5 years. The BBS learned that the gun belonged to the father of one of the suspects. The man had a valid gun license. However, he was not aware that his son had taken it on the night of the incident. The Firearms and Ammunition Act of Bhutan prohibits mortgaging or lending of licensed arms and ammunition to a third person. A license holder violating this rule will be liable to a fine of 1,000 Newton or imprisonment ranging from 3 months to 1 year. Meanwhile, the Divisional Forest Office is also charging the suspects for illegal hunting. The offence is a petty misdemeanor for which imprisonment is from 1 month to less than a year. For Kilowanchu in Samrup Jonkar, Sangishuzom for BBS News.
Local leaders in Tirang claim blacktopping farm roads are more beneficial as well as cost efficient. This is compared to just laying the GSB on the farm roads, which is constructing the foundation of the road and not blacktopping it. Although blacktopping roads require more budget, farm roads without blacktopping gets damaged faster and require frequent repairing, which cost more money. With all its Geok Centre roads blacktopped, the district is now focusing on blacktopping farm roads in the Geoks.
Blacktopping of more than 5.5 kilometers of farm road between Pematha and Phinsumga in Gosarling Geok was recently completed. This has brought smiles to people of around 130 households in the 2 Geoks. The improved roads have benefited the farmers, particularly with selling their farm produce.
We grow vegetables and produce a variety of dairy products. Earlier, it was difficult for us to sell our farm produce due to the poor road conditions.
The farm road was constructed some 5 years ago, but it was difficult for vehicles to travel through, especially during the summer. So we had to carry the vegetables on our backs till the highway, but now we don't have to worry about it.
According to the Geok Gup, since the budget was only for laying of GSB, they had to accommodate the additional expenses from the Geok budget.
GSP Biodalu da Lochin de Chinara Jungitiru Mahepchi Mep Jome di Tokalu Ngachi Chunichi Tange Selabe, Nachiki Chokpanga Chera Tindube, Juyop Kitindube Beudalu, Achigi Giok Nale, 4.3 million dechi, CMI Tokalu, Nachigi budget Kakuk Bedigibe.
Similarly, farm roads in Chuzomsa and Tachagang Chioks, in Pasaling and Rantanling Geoks, respectively, were also blacktopped.
te hema bio chen kho disugi na sonam gi themi thinking disuga ra geto khaba digi be na changing aje BBC Johnson change kini do wala sir
na ja kham na mis samete nga chinalu chap shu chabani zumbe bi nam di khalo ma chi gi china ta mi de ka te sa de sa go china de mep te kania de mila.
Meanwhile, according to the Dzongkhag administration, what the Geog officers have done is within their jurisdiction.
There is a provision which allows the Geog administrations to choose blacktopping farm routes over just laying the GSP. So in keeping with the decentralization policy, we approved blacktopping the routes through the Dzongkhag Dzogtung.
The Dzongkhag received 115 million ngultram in the current financial year to lay GSB on over 70 kilometers of farm roads. For Pema Tsewang in Sirang, Yisha Gelson, BBS News.
The Health Ministry says the most common variant of COVID-19 in the country is the Delta variant. This variant is regarded as more contagious and is more likely to lead to hospitalization. First identified in India, the Delta variant is now the dominant COVID-19 variant across the world.
According to the Health Ministry, from the current outbreak, 30 samples were sent to Bangkok, Thailand for lab testing. It was discovered that 87% of the total samples are of Delta variant. 10% is Beta variant and 3% is Alpha variant. The Beta form was initially discovered in South Africa, while the Alpha variant was first detected in the UK.
We would once again like to caution and remind public to use COVID precautionary measures diligently, because if the variant becomes rampant, it will ultimately compromise our health system and it will be very difficult to contain the outbreak. So with that, we would once again like to remind public not to let their guard down.
Meanwhile, with the addition of 7 new COVID-19 cases yesterday, the country's total number of confirmed cases is approaching 1,900. Pema Saldun Sring, BBS News.
A 38-year-old Bhutanese monk studying in the Indian state of Sikkim died of COVID-19 on 19th June. The deceased was on oxygen support in hospital there. A health team from Phuntsholing had travelled to Sikkim to evacuate the monk with a portable ventilator, but he died before they could bring him back. The deceased was from Samrup Jonkar. The family members have been informed. The focus is now shifting. An increasing number of farmers in Paro and Thimphu are growing other crops in their paddy fields. And this, according to experts, has led to a decrease in the area used for rice cultivation. Consequently, it has added pressure on the country's target of achieving rice self-sufficiency.
It is the paddy transplantation season. But these days, it is not uncommon to see some paddy fields covered with other crops, those that fetch better income, for example, asparagus. 51-year-old Gelson from Dugadinka in Shaba Geog is among the many farmers who switched to growing asparagus in some of their paddy fields. He accepts farm mechanization has made paddy cultivation easier. The yield has improved as well. Nevertheless, he is quick to add that the returns are better from asparagus. And so, 12 years have passed growing the crop.
For example, the maximum we can earn by cultivating rice in this plot of land would be 10,000 ngitam. On the other hand, we can easily make 25,000 ngitam if we grow other crops in the same plot.
He says it requires hard work in growing asparagus, but just once. Farmers enjoy the harvest for up to 3 decades, with each season lasting for a few months. Like Gelson, most of his fellow villagers cultivate asparagus in their paddy fields today. According to the district administration, the total area of land under asparagus cultivation in Paro increased to over 100 acres in 2018 from 78 acres in 2016.
Growing asparagus and cucumber is profitable because the yield is better. Just as spring begins, it is the asparagus that grows first before any other cash crops. We sell the first harvest to our regular buyers. They pay us 250 Newton for a bunch of asparagus. The price doesn't fall below 100 Newton.
In the neighboring district of Thimphu, the story is no different. The farmers of Mewang Gyeok are cultivating asparagus and chilies in mass in their paddy fields, a practice that is picking pace.
If we cultivate paddy on this plot of land, I can harvest only around 225 kilograms of rice. Whereas if we plant chilies, we can make around 50,000 Newton just by selling chili saplings and another 100,000 Newton selling the spice.
Farmers here started growing chilies in these paddy fields a few years ago. With Thimphu's increasing population, the income from it increased as well. Nowadays, each household grows chilies in at least 2 to 3 plots of land.
According to the Agriculture and Forest Ministry, at the moment the change in farming practice has not affected the country's rice production. For example, in Paro, despite the decrease in cultivated land, the rice production increased by more than 600 kilograms per acre between 2016 and 2018.
To encourage farmers, we are still providing subsidy on farm machinery. We are also providing them with low interest rate loans from the National CSI Bank. Similarly, we are giving them seeds that give better yield and help them in managing human-wildlife conflict, which affects rice production.
Nevertheless, the ministry is wary of the consequences if more paddy fields are converted for growing other crops. It would leave the national goal of achieving rice self-sufficiency at risk. Today, the country is 37% self-sufficient in rice, and so the cereal remains among the top 10 food items imported annually. Moreover, with changing climatic conditions, water is becoming a scarce resource. This, according to the Agriculture and Forest Minister, makes the task of achieving the goal even more challenging. Against this, the minister recommends growing more climate-resilient crops and changing dietary habits.
We have to grow other crops that do not require much water. Also, we did not necessarily eat rice in every meal. If we reduce our rice intake to twice a day, the sufficiency rate will increase to 70%. If we can reduce it to once a day, we will be able to achieve 100% sufficiency in rice.
For now, what remains to see is how willing the Bhutanis are to cut down on their rice consumption, which has been a staple diet since time immemorial. Meanwhile, back in Paro, Galsan and his fellow villagers have almost finished harvesting their asparagus plants. It has been a good season. They will leave the fields fallow as they wait for the plants to regrow the next season and beyond with least efforts involved. Pupkiem for BBS News.
And this brings us to the end of this week's edition of Bhutan This Week. Until next time, I'm Cheku, signing off only for now.